Thousands of people have gathered in New Delhi to march on Parliament in support of India's youth-led Cockroach Janta Party. The movement is demanding educational reforms and the resignation of the Education Minister. Clashes have reportedly erupted as police used tear gas and rushed at protesters with batons, saying they had no permission to march towards Parliament. The protest follows more than 2 weeks of hunger strikes by the movement, which led to prominent activist Sonam Wangchuk being taken to hospital by authorities after a nearly 3-week fast. Ishan Garg is tracking developments for CNA Live from New Delhi. Now, Ishan questions what do we know about the meeting between the Cockroach Party members and Modi's government?
Well, the spokesperson for the Cockroach Janta Party, they say that they only met India's health minister and a very senior BJP leader who was also until very recently the national president of the party, JP Nadda, for about 10 minutes. And according to the CJP, they have given the government a list of their own demands, and those demands include 3 points essentially. One is that they're asking for activist Sonam Wangchuk to be released from the hospital where he is the government has been kept to monitor his health, as he has been on a hunger strike for nearly 3 weeks now. The second point of that demand is a sum of money up to nearly 1 crore Indian rupees, which is 10 million Indian rupees, to be paid to the families of people who have been affected by the paper leaks in the medical undergraduate exams, where the paper was leaked and the exams had to be conducted once again. And finally, they want the Education Minister of India, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, to be sacked. This is a list of demands that the Cockroach Janta Party has given to the government, and the government, they say, has told them that they are going to discuss among themselves and come back with a response. There is no clarity yet, however, if the government is going to give in to any of these demands, because we have seen how in the past few weeks there has been really no engagement from the government's side with the Cockroach Janta Party. But as we saw on Monday, the anger of a lot of students, youth activists, student wings of political parties, they all spilled onto the streets, where we saw tens of thousands of protesters who were earlier confined only to this one small pocket called Jantar Mantar in New Delhi. Now they spilled onto the streets, reaching even the gates of the parliament. So the protesters now say that the ball is in the government's court, and they are going to await a response from the government to decide what's going to be the future course of action. But until their demands are met, they say they will continue protesting.
So, Ishan, what can be expected moving forward for the Cockroach Party and its supporters now?
Well, the future of this movement is looking shaky only in the last few hours. As we saw in the second half of the day on Monday, there were skirmishes between the protesters and the personnel, security personnel that were deployed all across New Delhi, with many protesters complaining that they have been hit by sticks and baton by the police officers and the security officials. The Delhi police, however, has denied these allegations. The Delhi police say that they have been handling the protests in a peaceful manner. They have not used force whatsoever. However, we have teams available on the ground who say that they have seen the Rapid Action Force, which is a paramilitary unit of India's federal police. They have been deploying tear gas shells to disperse the crowds away. And as we understand, in the past few hours, in the second half of Monday, the police and the security forces, they have cleared away the main protest area in the heart of New Delhi, with some images that are circulating online showing that the main stage of the protest, where activist Sonam Wangchuk was fasting for several days, that's also been dismantled to a very large degree, and the protesters have been pushed out into the streets, and now the crowds are dispersing from the area. The question now is whether these crowds are going to rearrange themselves. Are they going to come back to their normal base, and whether this protest will continue? Certainly, the protesters say that they will continue. There is another question of activist Sonam Wangchuk, who is still on hunger strike, being monitored by doctors at a Delhi hospital. He says that until the government and the opposition parties make education and education reform the central agenda of the session of parliament that is continuing, he is not going to end his hunger strike.
Oh, thank you so much for that update, Ishan. That was Ishan Garg reporting for CNA from New Delhi.